Hey, what's going on? It's Josh. Linkin Park is my favorite band of all time. 24-year Linkin Park superfan. Huge announcement with Emily Armstrong as their new vocalist. I watched the live stream. I've got a full reaction to the full live stream up. I love the new song. I'm so excited. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm hopeful. I'm hesitant. I'm everything. I'm positive. I'm everything. They have released an hour-long interview with Zane Lowe from Apple Music. And apparently it explains a lot of what has happened, how they got to this point. A lot of questions are answered. And we're going to listen to it. We're going to watch it right now today. Before we start, there's two things I want you to know. One, I really like Zane Lowe. I think he's awesome. I love his podcasts. I've seen him interview Linkin Park in the past. I've seen him interview Blink-182. I've seen a few others of him. He's fantastic. The other thing you need to know, he is way overly positive about everything. When he interviews someone, he is in love with them. They're the most important thing in the world. He agrees with everything they say. He's like a hype man for the band. So I find it really nice. It's really refreshing, but you've got to take the things that he says with a bit of a grain of salt, like the Blink-182 interview when he's just like, this is the best thing you've ever done. This is the best thing that has ever happened in the entire world. This is the best song of all. And it's just like, dude, calm it down a little bit. But just know that going in, what we're here for is the Linkin Park story, how they got here, how they picked Emily, how it all happened. And Zane does create a very positive environment for the bands. And because of his over-the-top positivity, they will usually talk a little more freely and openly. So just, if he seems too positive, just let him go. He is letting them speak freely and feel open to speak freely. So let's go. This is Linkin Park, The Emptiness Machine, new album, and return to music with Apple Music's Zane Lowe.
We had this conversation about like the what ifs of the band. And it wasn't like, let's do it. It was like, can you imagine?
When we started the band, it was just friends getting together, talking about life and the things that we could create together.
When I started to hear
So these guys are all
Emily's voice
around
on
50.
things,
Oh,
it
here we
was
go.
like the first time that my brain would accept it as a Linkin Park song.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, this could work.
Wow, that's
and
a
then all of
huge
a sudden we're
statement.
here and it's very real and it's really big.
Yeah. The first
More than a
time he heard
decade,
her
Linkin Park
vocals
gave us
was the
songs
first time
of
that he was like, we
resilience
could
and
actually do
empathy,
this.
reaching millions of people, building one of music's most faithful fan bases. But as they were reaching us, one of their own, the brilliant Chester Bennington slipped out of reach in 2017. Fans rallied around the band as they said goodbye, unsure if we'd ever get a chance to see them again. But here we are, 7 years on, Linkin Park are officially back with a new singer and drummer, and new music
Colin Britton.
ready to reach us once more. Today is a celebration, a chance to build on the incredible legacy of Chester, of Linkin Park, and the magical healing power of music.
Here we go. So yeah, it's all going to be positive. This is what this is.
Look at this place, bro. I don't know what I was expecting when I was coming here today. I got goosebumps because I'm like, what stage is this?
So we've got a launch stage.
Oh, so
and then
this is
the
they're on
arena
set.
This is
stage.
the arena stage.
Oh,
And then there'll be a bigger stage.
There's no underplay here,
afterwards.
Mike. There's no underplay.
No.
You're all in.
We're committed, yeah.
That's why we're here. We're here to talk about commitment.
So they haven't
right?
played
We're
on
here to
this
talk
stage
about
yet.
Linkin Park. Oh man,
This
I
is
can't
the
tell you
arena
how happy I
stage.
am to see you and to be able to do that. Can I go on the stage though? Can we go?
Let's
on the
do it,
stage?
man.
I wanna
Let's
see the
go.
stage.
okay.
Yeah, come on up this way. You know, the live show has always been such an important part of who we are. With a lot of years behind us,
Yeah.
we've done a lot of things. So we had to do something we hadn't done.
What,
And
like
so,
in the round?
yeah.
Your first show
Yeah.
with new members is in the round. I don't think anyone needs me to explain
Is this the
why
stage
that's
they performed
kinda
on?
Psycho.
It's very, actually,
so.
what's funny is, I think in the round is easier for solo artists.
Right.
Because they're just that single point of interest moving around.
Ed Sheeran's having a great time.
And then we, as we were designing and building whatever, like we went, oh wow, it's really different for a band to do this. Like music culture is so solo artist,
That is
small
true.
group oriented.
They took a
but
big
six
risk.
people on
I didn't even
stage
Look
consider
what
that.
I'm doing
very
here. And also,
different.
this is you,
That's me, yeah.
but this is Colin.
Okay, yes. So Colin facing that way, Joe facing that way, I'm facing this way, and when we can, we're gonna do like halftime at the basketball game. We're gonna switch sides.
Love it.
So
I love it. I love
and
it.
everybody else can have stations
they did.
that they can move around.
They did. I didn't even think
let's just
about
talk
how
the scale
different
of
and
this for a
hard it
second,
was for them to do.
because
I don't know if it looks bigger or smaller on camera, but
can I
it
tell you
feels.
what
It looks way bigger here.
Yeah, no, it doesn't just feel big, it is genuinely big. Like
It
we're in a
looks
huge
small
soundstage here.
on the
You're
stream,
taking up every inch of
for
it.
sure.
Your whole crew is here. I mean, look over there, you got people who you've worked with from the start, right? I mean, this has not just been about giving the band an opportunity to continue and to make new music and to move forward, but also it's a reunion.
Yeah, some of the folks that we're working with.
That's also
across the
interesting.
board, like,
God, Zane is
have been
clever.
with us since the beginning. Like
It's them all coming
first
back
tour,
together.
first
You know, it's
cycle,
not just
cycle.
we're replacing, we keep going.
And
It's a whole new
other
thing.
people are brand new, right? Like, and to have all of those different points of view, all of that diversity of types of people.
I love
and
Mike.
ways of
I've been
thinking
such a fan of Mike for
is like,
24 years now.
I don't know if we could do it without that.
Loved
like,
Fort
we need
Myer.
all of it, and we thrive on having that family around us. I think that's part of who we are.
You know, it's funny, you know, family old and new, like you say, bring different perspectives, but there's just an inbuilt emotional resonance with people who have watched you grow up doing what you love, and they've been doing what they love, and you shared in it together.
Here I am.
That I'm sure has created some emotional moments for people who wondered in the last 7 or so years whether you would ever get a chance to spend time together again like this.
Yeah. You know, we felt like 7 years ago, we were launching a record. We were just getting started with that, and everything came to a halt. And it felt like it got taken away. Like, it felt like we had a thing that we were really happy with and proud of, and it was gone. And one of the things that happened that a lot of people don't think about is that the people off stage had that feeling. Like, there was hundreds of people from the tour to management to the label, lots of people there.
People we don't think about.
And so on. And there was a part of us, like, over the last 7 years where we did remember that we have I don't want to say it's like a responsibility, because it's not all that serious, but there is a benefit to, like, if we get this thing up and running and we do it well, like, then everybody gets to play a role. Like, everybody gets to jump back in their seat on the Millennium Falcon and shoot the back. Like, you know what I'm
You
saying?
never
Like,
think of their
I
whole
think it is a
team.
responsibility, but not just on you. That's the difference.
The whole
I think
team around
everybody
them.
wants that responsibility back of playing a role in something that makes a lot of people happy and ultimately leaves something that is lasting. That is what you do, and your peers and friends do through the ages, is you create art, and it will last long after we're gone, and you create memories that will stay with us as long as we're here.
I mean, that's our hope. That's our goal, right?
All right, I mean, we're gonna get into kind of how this is all unfolded when we get to sit down and pretty soon, and also I get to actually spend some time with Colin and Emily, which is gonna be exciting.
I'm excited for you to
I was wondering if
And
he would
also
already
see
know
Brad again, see Joe again. I
about
haven't seen,
them.
I think we figured, I saw him in the hallway
this point.
10 years, probably because I've seen you and Dave.
Oh,
and
wow,
Brad.
yeah.
Rob's not here.
That's right.
Probably a good time for us while we buy the drum kit to sort of, for the fans to kind of elaborate a little bit on that.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
Rob, you know, we had a conversation a little while ago. I want to say it's like a couple years ago at this point, where he said he wanted to step away. We didn't
Okay.
talk about that in public because we didn't really know
If
how
they were
that
going
was
to come
gonna
back.
work out.
Yeah. How do you quit
The
from a
fans
band that
noticed
isn't
it.
around?
I mean, they've seen that, like, we put out, you know, as you know, we did paper cuts. We released a bunch of things. We celebrated Hybrid Theory, and he wasn't part of any of the, you know, interviews or marketing or whatever. And that's why, you know. We'll always love the guy. You know, we'll always respect, like, the wonderful things we built together. And yeah, with his absence being a real thing, I was already working with Colin, and Colin is, I didn't even think of Colin as a drummer.
Because
Like,
he's a record producer, really.
he writes, he produces,
Wow.
he does everything.
Oh, that's
He
interesting.
plays guitar really well.
whole
he plays
other
piano
creative
well,
part
but
of the
his
band.
main instrument is drums.
And it clicked.
Yeah, it did.
And it feels like, in many respects, that's the reason we're here, is that, I don't know how to put it. When I spoke to you on the phone the other day before we met here today with all the cameras and everybody here, it didn't sound like you had any of this felt like you were trying, and I know you did, and put a lot of hard work and effort and love and into this.
It all feels
But
like it just fell apart,
To me,
fell
like the way you were
together.
describing it, like it was as organic as it could be.
That's how it felt to me. Like, we didn't say,
I like that
hey,
too.
let's get the band started again. We didn't say, let's do tryouts.
Okay.
Let's find somebody
Yeah.
for whatever.
Wow.
It was even suggested to us at one point, like, hey, you know, you guys could do like a competition show on TV and like have all these, you'd have the best singers and like
That's
Being in Linkin
painful
Park?
to
Oh my
think
God.
about.
Right.
That's
And
painful.
anything you can imagine, any crazy idea that a person comes up with that's
Yeah.
like, oh, you could have done it this way. That came to us. Like, they all came to
I'm not trying to say there's
I
any
brought several of
thing-
them.
There's any such thing as a bad idea, but
That's a bad idea.
that's tough to acknowledge, the idea that in the midst of trying to figure out how you reappear for yourselves in a way that's
was very
authentic,
Christopher
so that
Walken.
the fans, so that we
For
embrace it because
yourselves.
it's authentic. To do that through the filter of entertainment would have been, I think, nearly impossible.
Awful.
I think that bands are more and more rare these days.
Yep.
And so maybe it escapes a lot of people that, like, one of the fundamentals of a band is that there's a bunch of people like who are sharing everything,
Yeah.
all the creative space and the touring and these decisions and stuff. And you got to spend a lot of time together, and you're sharing all of that stuff in a more intense way than you would be if you were a smaller group or if you're a solo artist. So for us, talent just gets you in the door. Like, talent, we expect that if somebody's going to come in and we're going to do a little writing session,
can play.
of course they got to be able to do that. It's not about that. It's on top of that. What's the vibe in the room? Like, what's the dynamic between the people in the band and
God,
the
it is important.
conversations we have that aren't related to the music? Like, what kind of people? Are they good people? Right? Like, all that stuff becomes
The thing that I always
so
found
important.
is,
So for us,
in
the
my experience in
idea of, like,
bands,
tryouts,
people
or the
think
idea
that
of
the
finding
singer has a
somebody
lot
through
more to do
a
with the music
talent.
than they do in a lot of
It's
cases.
not about the talent.
Yeah, yeah.
It's about the person.
In
Yeah,
the bands
exactly. And
that
then,
I
by
was
the way, you're
in,
on the hook, 'cause
the
everyone
vocalist
voted
was
for them or
always
whatever.
like,
They all want them to
in
be
a lot of
the
ways,
band, and
the
you go on tour and it's
last
like, oh,
impact
gosh.
on a song.
We could not be more incompatible, right? And
Could be,
we're
right?
stuck, you know,
That
you're
could be
stuck
the
with
case.
that. Stakes are even higher because you had this, whether you wanted it or not, this time, each of you, away.
Yeah.
And I know the friendship remained and you had reasons to reconnect. You were very kind to us all in terms of reconnecting with the music, re-releasing things, keeping the
Amazing.
Linkin Park experience alive. But you were figuring it out on your own. I mean, Post-Traumatic is a powerful body of work, and we never really got to talk about that. I mean, you could have just made Place to Start
Right.
and
Just put out a song.
just that.
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
says everything in that one moment of like feeling guilty for just wanting to continue doing something that you love that you now have no control over. And I wanted to ask you before we sit down.
I
and talk
forgot about all that in the song. You literally, I mean, you said a bunch of stuff like, oh yeah, that's right.
Oh, it's very
that's the song.
powerful. It's very powerful. And yeah, well, probably a good thing. But
I
before
didn't
we sit
give
down
Mike
and
stuff
start
enough
really
listens.
focusing on the future,
I
can
need
you
to.
sort of trace back that we're here today because of that? Like, that's kind of where your journey started. in
There's a
way.
really good, you make a great point in that, like, sometimes as an artist, like over the years, I or we will like put out music and
Yeah.
then disappear and do a bunch of creative work and then pop back up. And there's a whole like narrative that people kind of missed in between that got you there. And sometimes it's really, that means that thing that you came back with is very dramatically different and weird and people are like confused or uncomfortable. My journey through this was a little more of the opposite, where I was very upfront about how I was doing and what was happening in my head. And I put out a record called Post-Traumatic, as you said, a bunch of songs. I did a whole tour to kind of commune with the fans and give them a place to come and say, like, this has affected me, like this, what's gonna happen? And the answer was, we don't know. Like, nobody knows.
Well, because that album was just full of questions. And I'm sure everybody in the band was asking the same questions in their
I am
own
going to
way.
listen
Like,
Yeah.
to
what is-
all
what
of the
is life
stuff that
now?
Mike
Like,
put out
what's wide
before
open
the
for
new
us?
album comes out.
I don't know
For sure.
if you can honestly ask yourself now, looking back on it, if you imagine that this
It's almost like it was too upsetting to listen to at the
machine
time.
would be standing
Wasn't
under it
ready
and
for
within
it.
it again like this. Like,
It was actually, at some points, it was so scary.
yeah.
Like, to even, to commit to it, to imagine it, and get your hopes up about it.
Right,
Like
so you have to measure your hopes.
Oh
Wow.
man, like it was so hard
Wow.
to like say, yeah, we're gonna do it again. Like it's enough things are starting to come together and
Because if
work
it
out
fell apart,
that it feels
devastated
like it
all
might-
over
it
again.
might
Scary, yeah, because
Yeah.
you're in a safe place just creating. And
Yeah.
by the way, how the fuck did you keep it such a good secret? That's insane. Dude, I kind of want to know.
I can't wait for you to hear some of the other stories from the other folks in the band about that.
You know what? Neither can I. Let's
a
go.
pin-
Let's
put a
go
pin
over
in
there
that.
now. Let's go over there now.
Oh, here we go. Oh my God, we finally get to see her in just a comfortable, natural
It's
environment.
great to meet you. Congrats.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
You too.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats on all of you for being here. It's
Oh
lovely
my
to
God,
see
I'm
you,
so
old friends
happy.
in the-
I feel like we've literally known you since we started our whole career.
Pretty much. I mean,
And
what
I
year
don't know
did?
if I could say that about
Brad's even
anybody
there.
else.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other humans that we know, but I'm saying
I can't think of any.
in this capacity,
Yeah.
you're him.
Yeah, we're still here. It's a blessing, and I don't take it for granted. And what year did One Step Closer come out? When did it come
Oh
out?
God,
what was
it
it?
2000?
2000. So yeah, we're getting up to 25 years we've known each other.
Was that right? 2000?
2000,
Oh my God.
You had purple hair. And
At
that UK
one point
run?
I probably did,
At
but
that-
I
yeah, you
started
did.
with
You
red.
remember the original
Red. Oh
purple?
yeah, absolutely.
Man, you were kids.
Yeah.
You were kids, and it was happening very, very fast. I felt like it became this really quickly, like
It
this
did.
kind of scale really quickly. Coming back to this.
By the time
having had
Reanimation
this-
came out, it
this
was
space
this.
between what Linkin Park ultimately became, right? The scale of it, the size of it, Brad, and then coming back to it. This isn't an underplay stage.
I was telling Emily, like, I just feel so
Does
relieved.
Brad
'cause
know
there's
he's
probably
not
like
gonna be playing?
300 road cases stacked up on the side of this huge soundstage over there, and you wouldn't believe how much space they were taking up in my garage.
That was your job? Your job was to hold all the fly cases? That was your straw? That's hilarious.
You had one job.
We were just
dude.
trying to, we needed to
One
just save
job.
money on storage.
Flight case joke aside, did it surprise anybody in the band when you first walked in here that this was kind of where you left off? This is what you do. You work under in these huge environments and prepare to play big shows with massive screens and massive stages, you know?
It surprised me. I mean, when I walked in,
The stage looks
this
different.
was on paper. Like we were still working out. I felt like we were still working out the shape of everything a week before, and then all of a sudden we're here and it's very real. And
That's
it's
a different
really
stage behind
big.
them, right? Or am I crazy?
It's almost like feeling of like, oh, this is what I committed to. This is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And it's like, it made me a little nervous.
Well, you probably, you know, you're sort of a frog in a pot of boiling water when it's all happening over 10, 20 years and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then that's just your
Yes.
gig.
Yes.
That's what it is. And then it's like, no, it's not that anymore. How long, obviously putting aside the emotional changes that had to occur and what you had to go through as people, how long did it take you, Dave, to kind of pump the brakes on this sort of 7 years ago and realize that this may not be a part of your life again, and that's okay?
For me, I've always had music as a part of my life, starting when I was 5, 6 years old, and it's never been a focal point of like, this needs to be my career or this needs to be anything else other than, for me, what has been an incredible outlet.
Yeah.
And even, you know, looking back 7 years ago, I just had the feeling of, I'm gonna keep doing music in some way or another, whether that means, which is even what I was doing,
Yeah.
playing with my kids at home. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
But there's no promises that, you know, we'll do Linkin Park again. There's no promises that it'll be at any level or anything other than that. And oddly for me, that felt okay.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you know, a couple of years ago when Mike, Joe, and I started talking about like, are we gonna do Linkin Park again? Is that a thing?
Didn't even think about the
There
last
was a
few
real
years of
excitement
them.
from that early stage.
think
Let's get
this.
together, hang out. Let's
It
start
feels like it all just happened.
talking together
'Cause it was
about
such a
maybe doing
surprise.
that. Let's see what comes of it. And gradually, like that grows to here. And so to your question a second ago, when we got in this room, the first day we were rehearsing in this space, the first like 20 minutes for me were just kind of a mix of anxiety and panic and like,
yeah.
oh boy, this is now like a significant
I also had
step
my
on
band.
that
I left my
process
band
or
in
on that journey.
2012, and we
This
did
is real.
a
Like, we
comeback show
can't-
in 2019.
There's no more like,
And I remember getting back
It's
on
almost
that
like there's two of
stage
you, you know? It's like,
and
oh, well, I've
just
kind of
the
got this other
feeling.
life going on now, and then I've got to remind myself who I am.
Because
when I'm in
you were
this
different.
band, and-
It's like who was I and
when
who
we
I
get to do it
who am I
at this
now
scale,
in this
which
band?
is it's the dream. It's what everyone aspires to, you know, when you start out. I mean, look, you set your own goals in life, but you want to reach as many people as you can. You want to have as much excitement and fun as you can, and you have, and you'll have more. And so as we meet,
I think I
Emily,
almost fainted
someone who's
during my comeback show. I
dedicated
just
your
went
life to
too hard. I
music,
tried to rock like I
the
used to,
Dead
and realized
Sarah,
I am
achieved
older.
things, made great music, played shows, done
And
all
then
the
the
things you
adrenaline
wanted
and
to do
everything,
as a young
cranked up.
person starting out on this. And then it's like, boom, welcome to Burbank.
Perfect.
Right, welcome
I love
to
it.
sunny Burbank, where
Burbank.
the only place where you
Yeah.
can build a place this big to store an arena stage just for fun, right?
Exactly.
How has that, before we even get into making music and the chemistry of how you got here, just staying in the moment, what were your first impressions when you sort of walked in here and you were like, all right, this is my stage now?
Yeah, I was like, whatever, cool. I mean, it's been, you know, this past year, just like little by little, you know.
She's
being
very
able to, like,
real, very dry
process
sense
a
of
little
humor.
bit of it, day by day.
Yeah.
And also, like, we got to see pictures of the stage and everything and how it was being built, but it was like, that first day coming on the stage, I was like, oh my God.
Everything is so neat.
Yeah.
Look how everything is
Everything's so
perfectly
professional.
wound and wrapped up. There's not one wire
I'm
out
not
of
gonna get
place.
That was
electrocuted.
actually me.
Yes.
It was a shit show in here.
Yeah.
And I came in one night,
Yeah.
late at night, just OCD'd the heck out of this place.
Yeah.
Why don't I believe
No
that?
one even acknowledged it, but
What?
Well,
I don't
like,
believe
I'm getting
that.
my
The
proper,
crew they would
we
have.
can acknowledge it now,
Yeah.
and also, listen, not everybody needs to be patted on the back for doing what is inherently their job just by nature. You were built this way,
No.
get out of your own way.
Someone
Keep it
on their
tidier. It's
crew
who you
watched
are.
this and went,
Accept it,
"Shut
embrace
up."
if you need a cord tidied, I'm your guy.
it. So I've got to get past this now. I've got to get past how it feels just to be here with you in this room. It's taken me a while. Because it was emotional for me as well as a lifelong
Ask
fan
Khan
and
a
friend
question.
to know that this was even happening. We were going to be able to talk, and I'm really grateful that you've taken the opportunity to talk with me and with all of us, and you chose us to have a conversation with. So thank you. Let's get into how this group of people started to form, and what steps needed to be taken for Colin, and for Emily, and for all of you now to be able to sit here today and say to fans, we're Linkin Park. You know, we're not another name. This isn't in honor of playing shows because we want to go out and play shows, which some people reunite just to play shows. It feels real. There's an album. You've announced an album.
We made some music.
So let's talk
God,
about
there's
how we got
so
here.
much to talk about.
For me, I've been doing lots of stuff. Like, I did the post-traumatic record, I did some singles. I was working with a bunch of different artists, like writing, producing, and there was one moment a few years ago, a specific moment where it was the end of summer, and I remember getting on the phone with Joe, and Joe was like,
Bring Joe
I really
into the
want to get back
conversation.
together as friends. Like, I feel like we haven't been hanging out and we haven't seen each other as much as I'd like. And like, what are you doing? You know, let's go get breakfast or something.
I like
and we
that.
sat down at this like a little brunch spot.
Joe brought it all
We had this
back
conversation
together.
about like the what ifs of the band. And it wasn't like, let's do it. It was like, can you imagine? There was a million questions, right? And everything was unanswered. So it was kind of like, we went through this weird little like idea or list of it. And at one point I was like, well, what if we do it and we're really happy with it, but nobody else really likes it?
Great question, by the way. Powerful question.
My feeling was, well, I won't say my feeling because Joe's answer was, oh, I'd totally still do it. And he was so decisive.
I
Like,
love
it was
that.
so real. And I
That's
felt
what they
the
always
same
did.
way. And
That's
that
what they
was,
always
to
did.
me- for
Every
me
album
personally, that was
But
a
did you
big-
is a
feel the same
completely
way
different
before
sound
Joe
because they were doing what
unlocked that in you?
they didn't
Because
want
I can
people
also
to
understand
expect.
why you asked the question, because
Yeah.
those expectations, you got to acknowledge that they're there, even just to get past them. Otherwise, you're in denial.
Yeah, it's
right?
almost like an unspoken goal or hope or whatever. And you're right. Like, I feel like I'm not 100% sure if I felt it the way he felt it.
Yeah.
But when he said it, it was like a real
Joe, had you considered
Here we go. I want to hear him
that
talk.
question, even just privately in your mind? Like, if we had a chance to do this again, would I be happy just doing it to my own satisfaction without the pressure of it being a Linkin Park that everybody else wants it to be? Or did it surprise you, your own answer to that question?
Yeah, for sure it was a thought at different moments in time. I would think about that and probably have a different answer at different times depending on how I'm feeling. And
Yeah.
I think it comes down to when we started the band. It was just friends getting together and just like, oh, that's cool. Like not just making the music or thinking about playing live, but us talking about life and the things that we like and the things that we could create together. Whenever conversations steer towards that type of enjoyment, then it gets to a pure place of creation and freedom. And that's really what I miss from everything. And I think as we became successful,
You lose
some of
that.
that would get lost
You
sometimes.
lose that energy.
But whenever we get back to the core, even making this record, we just get together and sometimes 6 hours goes by. We're not making any music, we're just hanging out.
And there's an energy to it. They talk
that's
about
what
that
it's
in the
about. And
making
there
of
might be, like,
making Meteora,
something that comes
capturing
out
that
from a
energy.
conversation that's the genesis
When they're
of the
riding on the
ideas.
road.
Oh, let's write about that. Okay, or like, oh, this is a rhythm, a sound that I'm thinking of. And that's what I missed. And like just seeing the seed of that type of idea, what it can turn into, ultimately playing live and
All of
sharing
this,
that with people.
Yeah, that works itself out later.
It extends outside of us too. If you talk to anyone that's here, it's a job, but they're doing everything they can because they're invested in the joy of what brought them to this space too, and how they can help us to make something great, and they have ownership of that, and we draw a lot of power from that as well.
It's given me a lot to think about, in particular when you talk about like the idea of feeling like you can go back to the beginning, and I think the album title reflects that very cleverly.
Yeah, from Zero.
You know, because any real Linkin Park fan knows that you're originally called Zero with an X, which is pretty sick, by the way. I mean, in terms of like discarded band names, it's kind of up there. You know what I mean? It's been a lot worse. It feels like you're feeling that the whole process, not just the beginning of the album and answering those questions, but you wanted to hold on to that sense of like how we felt at the start. If we can't be those kids anymore, can we recapture that feeling?
God, Zane's a good interviewer. Even if he is overly positive,
Yeah,
I
but
guess I would be too if I
One
was
of the
sitting with
reasons
Linkin
for
Park.
the album title, I mean, it's obviously a double entendre about blank canvases and also about our band in particular. And we felt like we have a new energy. Like it's almost like going back in time and going to the start.
Yeah.
And starting again, except you have the benefit of all the stuff you know.
Yeah.
We know what we've been through. Emily knows what she's been through. Colin knows what and everybody brought those things to the table. One of the things I really enjoyed is they're from a younger generation than me, so some of the stuff that they were
10
bringing
years, it's
to
not
the
that much
table
younger.
was refreshing. It was just a different
Point of view?
point of view
Hey!
that I wouldn't have had. And as we were writing stuff, it was a lot of a lot of that, and also a lot of just their own specific individual way of doing things and creative process. That they're great in the studio, they're fun to hang out with.
Yeah, you said up on stage how important that is that you've got people that you want to spend time with and that you want to support personally, not just
100%.
creatively, right? How important that is. So how did you start
My
to work
band dropped
together?
one of the
Because
best guitarists
obviously
I've ever
whoever's idea it
seen or
was to hold
heard
a
because of the
mainstream
differences
television
in
competition to try and
in
get a
writing
lead singer.
and everything.
That didn't land.
Personalities.
So I'm only guessing it was the opposite of that.
I missed
It
that.
was like
I missed that.
was to hold it. So how did you start to work together? Because obviously whoever's idea it was to hold a mainstream television competition to try and get a new lead singer, that didn't land. So I'm only guessing it was the opposite of that. That it was like just
Pretty much.
let's just be very
Her
granular.
speaking voice
What's
is
the
very
first- What's the
charismatic.
first phone? Because Colin came first.
So we were talking, Dave and Joe and I were talking, but Colin and I had started, when did we meet? 21-ish?
Yeah,
About
that's right.
21-ish? And like I said, I was doing some sessions with some other artists.
Yeah.
That has been what Colin was doing.
Yeah.
And we did a session together. I walked out of that session being like, dude, that guy is insane. Like he and I have like a thing, like I feel like we think similarly or something. And so we set up some more sessions.
Yeah, and actually the only reason I did that session was to work with Mike, actually.
Who wouldn't?
And so I was just excited. I was like kind of whatever
Is it
on
the
the
first
actual.
time you said that?
No, I think I
He
probably.
told me that way later though. I didn't
yeah.
know that for a really long time.
Yeah, that's a weird intro to a session. Be like, hey, Mike, nice to meet you. The only reason I'm here today is just because I want to work with you.
There's something kind of cool about that too, though. Just put all your
No,
cards on the table.
he played it very cool.
We wound up working together for a long time. I feel like over
He's
a
also
year,
my
probably,
age.
just periodically.
So
you know, a
Colin
couple
and
times a
Emily are the
month,
same
probably,
age.
on
Yeah.
other
Very similar to
sessions
me.
and songwriting, and
Yeah.
there's always fun. There's always so much to learn from Mike, and like you know, I think that your creative process is something that I've always really like admired, and from the time
it's how I
you know,
learned
Linkin Park music
how to
was
make
what got
music
me
and
into
everything.
production to
The
start with.
meteora
I already
of
told these
making
guys
of
this
DVD.
isn't new information. I used to be like in my dad's house, who's a musician, and he had a bunch of music gear, and I would try to like, you know, recreate the Faint sample. And
It's one thing to go into a studio and get to work with someone who inspired you to want to create music yourself. It's another thing to realize that actually now you've fallen into sessions that actually might be something else, that might actually be a Linkin Park thing. I guess what I'm trying to achieve for all of us here, myself included, and the fans, is when does it actually start to feel, in particular to Emily and to Colin, like is this Linkin Park we're doing? Like, is that what we're doing? Like, if I'd gone from working with Mike to like, now Dave's here and Joe's here and Brad's here and now everyone's like, what's going on? Do you know what I mean?
I do.
To give a look a little bit behind the curtain,
Yeah.
here we're sitting in this and it's this, but there's so many little steps along the way that we were literally starting from zero. It sounds cheesy to say it in that manner, but there was no roadmap and we don't have a direction at that point of what we're trying to land at. It was
organic,
at least in my
like they
head,
said.
it was
I like
as
that.
sincere as let's get together and just see if we even like what we're doing. Truth be told, there's a lot of times when, you know, I'd drive up to Mike's and we'd hang out in the studio and we'd just talk for 6 hours. And that's funny too, because in retrospect, like my kids don't realize or understand why all these guys know what's going on in their lives. And I'm like, it's because we hang out all the time and we talk and we're not just sitting there playing instruments or whatever.
right.
Like, you've got to like
That's that
live
that
together
bond.
and feel it out. So when I first met Colin, there was no part of it of this is where Linkin Park goes. It was strictly like, let's just make some stuff and see what happens. Let's meet, let's hang out, let's do whatever. Same with Emily. We've known Emily for a bunch of years, but it was always this long process of like, we don't know what we're doing, but let's just hang out and make some stuff and see what happens.
Okay, so
and
let's
then
talk
from
about-
their side,
Yeah.
who knows?
But that's
right?
what,
Like,
let's talk about the who
You'll
knows.
never know.
Wow, that's very sage. That's very
telling you.
sage and very meditative, and years of being in the music business will hopefully teach you how to do that. That being said, let's talk about hopes.
It's kind of weird how we kind of cut Phoenix off there.
Because you have to be, right? You can't get your hopes up too high. You just want your friendship back. You want the experience of being together. But we got to acknowledge that there are hopes here. We
I
spend
think he
time
wants
in
to
a
hear
room
from
with
Emily.
People making music, Emily.
I think
starting to,
he
like, sing
asked
on
her
some
that
stuff,
question
write
and
some
Phoenix
stuff,
stole
figure
it.
some stuff out.
So I think he's trying to bring it back
Where
to
are your
Emily.
hopes at this point?
It's a good question. We started writing actually in 2019. We did a couple songs, and it was just, everything was a question mark.
Wow.
You know, it was just fun to go in and write some stuff. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, you know, and it wasn't until a couple of years later, whatever, a few years later, you called me, and I was like, yeah, I would love to come in. And it was like, at that point, I felt like I was really open to what would
She has Chester
eventually
mannerisms.
be
I don't know
this
what it is.
But at the time, I didn't know what it was.
It's a little
right? I
uncanny.
felt an energy. I did. That's all I could kind of go after, right? And I just knew at that point,
What is
going
it?
in and working with Mike, and at the time it was just like a few
It
questionable.
wasn't everybody. It was
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
certain
And she
people.
seems like a rocker in the
And
way
like
that
Colin, I
Chester
got
was
to
a
know
rocker,
Colin,
not like a
and
metal guy.
I just knew that I loved going back, and I learned more, and it was fun. I think from that point it just became, it wasn't like a moment, you know, where it was like, oh my gosh, this could be it. It was just like, what's going on, and I like this. And the more and more creative that everybody else got, and it was infectious, and it was really, really fun, you know? And that's what like I love about being in a band, you know, having been in a band for 20 years, you know? It's like,
the
I
fun that
love it.
keeps you
It's the
coming back.
magic. It's that. And I was just like all about it, you know? And it was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Emily, so we're gonna start booking some shows. And I was like, okay.
That was
the
a big.
moment?
That was actually a big moment. That was.
Whoa,
it was very
whoa,
slow.
I know.
It was
I
very
know.
slow and like.
the moment you found out this was Linkin Park was when you're like, hey, our booking agent's on the phone.
Wow.
Do you want to do 6 arenas?
The context, just to lay the context,
That's exactly how it went.
to lay out the context.
I like her sense of
because I
humor.
know that actually
So
does sound
dry.
crazy, super crazy. And we were at that point, everything was still very organic and like amorphous. Like there wasn't a lot of shape to it.
Yeah.
I think you were under the impression that you might be like a featured artist,
Yeah.
right? Like
Like there might be
I
a
got
few,
the vibe that that'd
few
be like,
singers.
Yeah.
like, and we weren't even clear at that point if it was, is there, like, am I gonna be carrying a bunch of vocals? Are we gonna have another vocalist? Are we gonna have multiple vocalists on stage? Like, I don't know what, we had all these options.
Yeah.
Had every option in the
then-
world.
Yeah, and then some real shows showed up on the radar. They had like reached out to management. Those shows since had not happened. But it was just like the impetus for like, hey, like, apparently people actually really want to see the band. Like you still have fans out there.
Yeah.
And
You still have fans out here.
believe it or not, like there were moments in the last 7 years where I was not positive that was a real, I wasn't convinced that there were a lot
Wow.
of fans out there for us in
Really?
some whatever version. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I imagine that it could be a lot smaller.
Oh my God.
That we are still here, but we have what we need. Are we in the business of more Linkin Park?
Is it? Yeah. Is it just a different thing now?
I
Very
never feel
understandable
alone
why
in
you would ask
saying
yourself that question,
that Linkin
because it
Park are my
brings up
favorite
an
band of all
enormous
time.
amount of imagery and thrash and things, and the what ifs, the what woulds.
We were all feeling the what ifs. There was a huge leap of faith that we had to say, like, I think she's the one. Like, I think she's.
Yep.
Well, there was a moment, Mike was working with Emily, and you've heard her voice, sounds
Crushing
amazing.
it.
Yeah.
But there was a moment, was the first time Mike asked her to scream. And that for me, that did it. I was like, okay, this is, let's have a conversation.
No, but your scream is super unique because you're screaming, and I didn't even realize that you started screaming. It's the craziest thing. Like
That's
There's
true.
a lot of dynamic shift when people choose to go
That-
from singing to screaming.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's very much by design.
There's a lot of voice
Sometimes
in
I feel
her
that yours
scream.
is just like this. It's like a wave. It's like a very it's like a crest of a
The-
wave. It's
the
like I'm
rasp
singing really pure, and
builds
then all of a
over the
sudden I'm screaming, but
vocals.
it's like I don't feel that's such a hot dynamic shift.
We even like soloed it, and like there were different takes.
So
right?
he's
And we
heard her at
soloed
this
the
point.
takes, and we're listening through, and we're like, it sounds like there's effects on the vocal.
That's what I mean.
It sounds like there's like a bit crusher or distortion on the vocal. There's nothing.
She did
on
that
it.
live.
It
She
just
did a
sounds that way.
crazy high
It's really-
scream
yeah, it's really neat.
in the
At that
live
point,
show.
We're like,
It was very
By the way,
unusual.
get used to this because the timeline is
Very
all over
unique.
the show. So if you want quick and easy answers here, forget about it. You're in, what you're feeling is what I'm feeling. We're all feeling the same thing. Carry on.
we're in my studio.
Yeah.
We've been working on stuff off and on for weeks or months. And at a certain point, it's like we keep inviting Emily and Colin back. We keep oh, that was good. Like, let's do it
It
again.
just- it
We
just
did again.
worked.
That was good too. And it gets
Oh,
better
I
and better
like
and
it.
better. And we had some songs, and we realized, I think we should, like, this isn't me speaking, this is everybody speaking. Like, I think she's the singer. Like, is that, am I crazy? And the other guy's like, no, I feel that too.
As that was happening, like, we had a desire to like make things loud.
Yeah. The vocal felt right, and so that inspired more heavy songs. And the heavy songs brought that out more, and it was just back and forth.
What a
Heavy.
Beautiful, beautiful process to be able to allow yourself the space to come to a singular moment.
The
when
first
you
track's a
have
bit
to
more
actually
rocky, but
Commit.
we have the promise
So
of
we-
heavier songs.
Had to verbalize that.
Yeah.
And we said to her,
So
like,
that's the point when I was like, hey,
Holy shit. And by no means up to
She
that point
is
had you allowed any
unbelievably
potential or any
charismatic.
hopes
She
or
doesn't
any-
have to say
any Other
anything.
reality settle in.
When she
I mean, there
talks,
was
it's
a
like,
lot of feeling. There was a lot of, I definitely didn't want to go there, you know, and be like, oh, I'm the singer, or I could be the singer, or it was just like, what is good for this band? As a fan, what would be the ideal voice or energy, or what is that fit? I took myself out of the equation. And I just looked at it as like, what could be a good fit?
Yeah.
You know? And I held on to that question for a bit as I was going in and singing and stuff. And then it would, you know, there was, and that's when the thoughts would trickle, you know, being like,
Yeah.
I mean, this would be really fun. I mean,
fun.
this could work. And then it's like, oh my God, holy shit, you know? Like, when you start to like have that moment, it's like, whoa.
Can I ask you a question? I know, and I really love you to take it in the intention in which it's meant.
She's got
which is
front
really,
person
really genuine
energy.
and honest. You know, does Chester enter your mind in moments like this? Do you think about when you're trying to sing these songs and do what's right for the band? Like, if so, how does he manifest in this, in your thoughts and your feelings?
Well, when I first listened to Linkin Park, like Hybrid Theory was like my favorite album.
Yeah.
And I was starting bands at the time. I was in a band, and that was the moment where I was like, I want to sing and scream. You know, one step closer, I was like, I could do that. You know, and at the time I wasn't even a good singer. I was a guitar player in a band, you know, and I just loved being in a band. And I was like, I could do that. So of course, you know, it gets to this point and just being like, this is crazy, you know? In that fact where it's like, I would have never imagined, you know? So there's definitely that. And obviously in the side of like the feelings and the emotions of it, like I would love to do him proud, you know?
As of this conversation, you've taken a different stage yesterday and presented, this is where the timeline gets even weirder, because we're a ways away from that. This is the arena setup.
Okay.
This conversation will happen the day after you've played your first show. And I've seen the set list, now everyone's heard it. You know, there's only one new song, I think, on the set list. So the first times you sang Chester's songs, because you really became a part of this band singing
So
your
that is a
songs.
different stage behind them.
Super unique. Not even probably thinking, because there isn't a Linkin Park, what would it sound like if I sang Paper Cuts?
It's the weirdest way to start a new band.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Like we were literally like writing a new album, writing new songs, figuring out the band at the same time. And then you add on to the kind of at some point, maybe not the end of it, but you add on later. Oh, and there's all this other great stuff that we love, that we wrote, but Colin and I both have like a pretty good imagination for what something is going to sound like. Like that's when we're working on a thing, right? It's like, oh, this part could use a sound like this. It's in our head. We know what it is, and then we have to make it. Similarly, I could hear her sing, and I go, I know what she's gonna sound like on Crawling. I think I know what she's gonna sound like on Faint. Like,
I have that as
and
well.
then
I
we
think, a
started
bit.
doing it. You
Just
remember
to
we
talk myself
sat
up.
and- was it just like a acoustic?
I understand what he's saying.
You mean in your studio?
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, you've got on your
Am I
piano.
on my piano?
That's right.
Because we were
changed
changing the keys.
Yeah.
to get into your
Yeah.
range.
And then I was
Oh, they said
do
it.
this to
Interesting.
scream to
She
cover
was
my
screaming into like a pillow or into her shirt so that it wasn't
Because it
so
was
loud.
so quiet, but I was like,
It was
I think I
sitting
could do
this
it.
far apart. Yeah.
It sounds great. No, this is good.
I mean, to some degree, I can imagine, and I mean this well, as a little anticlimactic, because you waited your whole life to probably sing those songs and really let it go as a fan, not under the circumstances that they're in, probably
Yeah.
with Chester. Probably one day to get on stage with Chester at a festival and do it with him, right? So that moment when you actually get to like really sing that song, what did that feel like? When you got to sing a Linkin Park
When
song
you
that
are the
Chester
voice of
sang
the
and
song.
that inspired you to be a singer in the first place?
Colin and I, like, we had to like go in and like, we spent a lot of time together and like going through the songs and really trying to make them our own, you know? That was a process of like, especially the older songs that are just embedded, you know? And it's never a thought where it's like, I need to make the song my own, right? So there's a lot of deconstruction in that way, where it's like, how do I make this song have the same impact as much as possible with my voice? So I
That
had to
is
find the
interesting.
meaning in the song again, in a different way. And that was fun and challenging. Some of the songs became way quicker than others. But I definitely noticed that, like the newer songs, like Lost, like that was like so easy for me. And I thought it would be like, we went through it like a few times and I just like had it. And the other ones, for some reason, even though I've listened to them so many times.
Well, maybe you just subconsciously still connected to them as a fan.
Exactly.
It's really hard to figure out how you can actually bring them to life, to your point.
How you steer them, how you pilot
keep them authentic, but also
Yes.
be you.
Yes.
Because you got to do two authentics here.
Yes.
You got to do right by the song, but you got to do right by you. Otherwise, everyone's going to be like,
That's
wow,
right,
this is
that's
just a
right.
bar room
Exactly.
singing, getting
That's
up and
really
having a go.
important.
Exactly.
I don't know if I said this to anyone out loud. I really felt like when I met you in person, like you walked into the room at East West, I felt like that was the clearest spark where I was like, oh yeah, I get it. Like this is right. Even before really hearing you on anything and really thinking about it, just like when you walked into the room, your energy, I was like,
she's got captivating
spectacular.
energy. Yeah.
Like that feels right. And then I think your voice, the way you interpret things, like it's all just like cohesive to me in terms of who you are, and it's, you said authentic. And I think like the greatest opportunity for Emily is just to be Emily. Like, and Emily's energy makes sense with Linkin Park. Like it's the exact right feeling, because like there were even experiments that I had heard with like amazing singers that had come in and worked on stuff, some of whom I really like loved their voices. And when I heard it, I was like, that sounds cool. It doesn't sound like this band. And everything I've seen you like bring to the table feels naturally like this band.
Yeah.
And even to your questions about Chester, like Chester's one of a kind. Like Chester did his thing like no one else could do it. And I think like what's amazing is like Emily just being Emily works in Linkin Park.
Can I give you the perspective from a fan when I press play on the album? Damn, I shouldn't have let that out. I'm gonna get bombarded now. Way too late. When I press play on the album,
Who gave you the album?
I can talk about Emptiness Machine,
Yes.
right?
You can.
And in relation to the album, it was the first thing I heard. And it was,
first track.
I'm walking so
I think I already
carefully
knew
here.
that.
It was it blew me away, because obviously you introduce, people who heard it live now, you know, you start the song
Yeah.
and you lay out the stall.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know me. You think you know me, this is what the song's about, but you don't actually know me, but you know what I sound like. So let me just explain to you what the relationship actually is. And then when you start singing for the first time, yeah, I get goosebumps thinking about it, because it sounded so much like the band. And it didn't sound like Chester, but it didn't sound unlike Chester's spirit, if that makes sense.
It's a rock spirit. It's
You
the
know?
whole Stone
So
Temple
it was
Pilots
such a
rocker
tricky-
spirit.
For my ear,
She's got that grit.
I've
Like even
got-
just the chains that she's got on. Like,
I don't know, audio baggage. Like I just.
It's not
there's
even a-
lot
it's not
when
even a
I'm-
rock
when I'm
that I
processing
like.
Things in general, I'm thinking
Unless
a
it's
lot.
part of Linkin
When
Park.
I'm processing our music, I'm thinking more. And like Brad said, we did a lot of sessions with a lot of people. They weren't tryouts; they were just sessions. And certainly, when I started to hear Emily's voice on things, my brain, it was like the first time that my brain would accept it as a Linkin Park song. You know what I mean? Like when it was just my voice on the song, I could accept it. But we put other people on the songs. Having Emily's voice on it over and over again, it went, yeah, that feels good. Yeah, that feels good. And I'm glad that you had that feeling, because I think Emptiness Machine, I think a lot of us, when we arranged it the way it's currently arranged, like when we got to that version of the song, it was pretty obvious to us that it was a good thing to lead with.
Well, it also feels like it's a very important closing of the loop from some of the feelings you were all going through 7 years ago, and that you so eloquently put on, as we mentioned before, Place to Start, which is the idea of wanting to find a place to start, and wanting a place to belong. And really what this is about is finding that place to belong again, right? That reason to want to hang out again, to want to create again, to have the fun again, to do it again. That's how the song ends. It begins as a throwdown.
I'm so glad that
Very clear
they just
throwdown.
started doing
And I'm
that
not going to
pan,
say
because
that
I
it's
was
a challenge
just
to anyone
looking across
or
the
any
whole
group of
band and
people
just like taking them in as a
but
band.
to me, it's very clear that there's a big distance between what people.
Like, that's Linkin Park and Zane. But that looks good. That feels right. When you just see them sitting comfortably all together, it just feels right. Like, there's just something about it. I was just scanning across like how they're sitting, what they're wearing, them together as a group. And I was like, it's right. They're comfortable. They've obviously been doing stuff for a long time.
Think and what you want to do.
I feel
don't want
like
to be dragged
ease
down
now
by expectations.
after
It's hard
that
not to make a
thought, actually.
connection to some degree between what we've talked about a little bit so far, which is this idea of how things are going to be received, and getting ahead of it a little bit. I don't know if that was conscious or subconscious, but I definitely heard the gauntlet being thrown down that I'm not going to sit around and be judged anymore.
That's an interesting take on it. I don't think that's exactly what I meant, but I mean, you know, the listener's perception of the lyrics is always their own, and yours are valid.
However it came out of your subconscious, it feels like
He almost said that like you didn't mean it. Yours are valid.
You talked about the catharsis having
don't care
already
about it,
happened,
but
and that
they're
makes
valid.
total sense. 7 years is time. But there's still some catharsis out there for people who are going to try to figure out, okay, I love this band. What is Linkin Park in 2024 with Colin and Emily and new music? Not just shows, we're not just doing festivals, I'll decide in a park somewhere. No. We got to see this last night, and we got to hear a new song, and there's a new album. Can we get the album artwork up actually on the screen? This is a cool trick. There it is. There we go. That's why we wanted to do it. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's sick.
Yeah.
It's really
not
cool.
CGI. It's a photo.
So did you put it in between the glass?
It is a.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not technical enough with photography.
It looks like they would have had to have put the liquid in between 2 sheets of glass or something to
It does
create
look
that
like that.
spread.
That's not how it was made.
Thank you for clearing that up.
It's because it's natural,
Yeah.
like liquids and colors and photography. You can't make it again. This is just a moment in time, right? It feels simultaneously like really small, like microscopic, and also galactic, like very big. I think our band is big and small at the same time.
To me, it screams possibility, which encapsulates what Mike is saying. It sums up the from zero concept, and it's kind of like, okay, it looks cool, but it's like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, it's an organism, and you want to see where it goes, right? You want to see what it builds from. We're all seeing this now. In case you hadn't seen it, and we're meeting new people, and we've got Linkin Park back in our lives. Let's talk to the fans. I would just love to know what you would like the fans to know from a relationship point of view, because this is a relationship that you
24-year relationship, guys.
Period of time.
What do you want me to know?
And those relationships are what keep everybody in what we love. You get to do what you love, we get to love it.
I've been thinking about that a lot. I've been thinking about the process that we've gone through, the steps that we've come to get here. We've talked about it in the past that anytime you release a new album, you're kind of popping up in a new location, and then the fans have to try to catch up.
Oh,
so
that's
we might have
interesting.
gone on a 2-year journey, or in this case, a 7-year journey, or whatever that is. And then for us, we've walked that whole path. And so for us, it feels, this is where we're at, and it makes sense to us, and this is why. But to somebody else, you've disappeared,
just
been
appeared.
underground for forever, and then now here you are. So there's a big amount of life that's been lived on our end and on the fans' base's end. And I think in the process of all that, I am so excited to share this whole
God, I want this
thing
album
with
now.
them again. As a musician, my favorite thing is that interaction and that connection with your audience. I love this connection first and foremost, but then I love to go share it. But I also have permission for our fan base to form their own opinion. It's okay for them to land wherever they land on it. Obviously, I would speak for all of us, we want them to be in the journey where it's an open arms event where we're like, hell yeah, come on in, because we're having a great time and this is an awesome place to be. But respectfully, I know it's a lot. I know a lot's gone down. I know there's a lot of feelings and everything. Different people process that differently. Even amongst the 6 of us, we've processed things differently. I want to give space and respect to that, and just have an open invite.
That was so beautifully said, I have to say, honestly, as a fan. I really feel that. I think we have a right to listen and like whatever we want. And I think we'd love to be able to control that. All musicians and art would love our art to be heard and perceived the way that we intend it. That is the risk. It's the risk when you dedicate your life to it. On day one as a kid, not enough emphasis is placed on, and understandably so, because there are people putting their lives at risk to do things to make the world better genuinely.
Sure.
But I do put art and magic as magic up there. It can save people's lives. It can make life better. It can mend and heal and create real experience.
Absolutely.
And when you commit yourself at a young age to do that and you step out of the framework and you back yourself, that is a form of courage, whether anyone wants to call it that or not. And that is what's going on here. It is a courageous step you've all taken to continue and to make music and to reconnect.
You're gonna make me cry. Stop, you guys.
So nice.
You're gonna make me cry.
And I feel like there's a million different ways people can do that. One of them is to kind of put on a front of like, I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks, this is my thing, whatever. You can do that and people take that space and that's sincerely or, you know, whatever their path is, if that's what it is, that it is what it is. But there's also a space where you can say, and this is kind of what I feel like I'm coming from, and I think all of us, that sincerely, we believe in this, we love it, and we hope you do too. And if you don't, like, I don't think music's competitive. I think of it as like food. If I love mustard and geek out on it, and then you don't love mustard, like, we can still be friends. It's not a contest.
There's a guy who
right?
sold 100 million albums. Pretty easy to fucking not be competitive when you're on top, baby.
That part's competitive, but the actual
He actually
art is
wasn't
not.
doing a metaphor or an analogy. Like, this dude won't stop talking about mustard. And
So
it's so
this
annoying.
is a great pivot point where
And
Into
I
mustard?
really
Can
just
I-
don't
can I-
relate.
can I
don't
sell you
relate
some
to
mustard,
him. I
Zane?
don't relate to his mustard collection.
Let's just block him out because I'm a mustard fan.
When he was talking about, oh, we hung out for 6 hours and we didn't make anything, isn't that cool? This is what he's talking about.
Yeah, basically, it's just him going,
This is
"Can
what we
go to
made.
work?
What we
Can
made
we go to work?
is this.
Can we go
It
to work?"
sounds really like prophetic when you're like, we sat there for 6 hours, we didn't make anything. These dudes were literally talking about mustard.
Yeah, but that's where it started. Maybe not mustard.
It's a
but that's
real
where it
friendship.
started.
It's a real
And
friendship.
you were
That's the
right.
stuff
you made
that
a
you
really
talk about.
important point very early on. Joe, you made the point that when it got very big, it's easy sometimes for that to just get overwhelmed or overshadowed
Yeah.
by the day-to-day experience of just keeping going. Just keep
Yeah, and
going.
that, I mean, you didn't see it on the screen, but that's for the same reason that you're talking about, is why the album cover was almost yellow.
Back to mustard. I tried.
And also From Zero sounded better than Almost Yellow.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any coming
Yeah.
back from this.
So I
think
mean,
this
I
is-
think I've got. You know
You
what?
know everybody well enough at this point
It
to
goes
know.
off, it goes off.
It
There's no
stays
coming
there.
back.
It's not coming back.
It doesn't go in
gonna be
reverse.
nice.
There's no reverse
I'm
here.
just grateful I got like some real emotion, some genuine answers out of here, especially
Yeah.
out of this guy right here.
You're lucky this didn't happen an hour ago.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I
'Cause
feel
you
like
would've
I just need to like take what I got.
If you want the
gotta
pivot back to
restart.
sincerity, I think that
Is it? Can you even pivot
can
back to
pivot.
sincerity?
Don't block it, Zane.
if you have like 3 mustards,
This is the Linkin Park I met on day one. I'm not even kidding.
I still remember the first time we met you at BBC
Yeah.
at the studios in London.
XFM.
And you early on from the jump stood out to me as somebody who not only was like fun to talk to, but was sincerely invested in, even if I thought you may have started some gnarly rumors about
I
us,
swear it wasn't me, man.
I still loved you.
I love you too.
And so as a full circle moment,
Yeah. It's cool, right?
every time I feel like we hang out, it's a bit of a full circle moment because there's like a new thing happening.
God,
But
that's interesting.
This is great.
It's cool, man.
And it's
cool.
really
I'm-
great to see you and be with you.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting us to be here. You know, I'm glad we ended on mustard because that's kind of how it started. I remember you went there and you went there. You guys were fans. I remember you walked into the building and I saw you walking down the corridor toward me, and the way the studio was set up is I could see the guests walking all the way from the lift at the other end of the floor all the way down. So you could tell if someone was in a good mood or in a bad mood, what their energy was like. Are they in rock star mode? Are they happy with their team? If they come off of a bad interview, I got real good at reading the room pretty quick because you had 15 seconds to figure out what was going on.
Wow.
And I remember you turned the corner looking like the most American band I've ever seen in my life. It was just DC shoes.
Just
and
Calabasas.
just baggy. It was just straight Calabasas. But it was, everyone had a different hair color, and it was brilliant. And I remember how you were all laughing in equal measure at each other. You were all like just, it was like, oh,
Real
these
friends.
guys are so stoked. They're in London for the first time as a band. They're about to play King's College. The song's on radio, and you seemed so happy. And I knew your story. I knew Chester was a latecomer to the band. My eyes were like, okay, is he comfortable? Are they comfortable together? Not unlike how it was today. And yeah, it was really comfortable then, and it's really comfortable now, and you're still taking the piss. And I love it. I'm glad you got back to that.
That's so good.
Right? I'm glad you got back to that.
On something
We'll
so
talk around the
important,
album,
they still got
'cause I have
silly.
so much
That's
to talk
awesome.
about on this album, and I can't say nothing.
Yeah.
Because you guys hold the keys to the kingdom.
All right. I feel better. I do feel better now after hearing that. As a fan, I loved seeing them all together, and just that understanding that they now have been, we're only just seeing them now, and it looks like they've just like thrown it all together. But it's been such a long journey. And the way that the writing came about just naturally, and the way that Mike said that it wasn't until I heard her voice on songs that I could accept that this is a Linkin Park song. That's huge, because he put out songs that weren't Linkin Park songs with him on them. And he is from Linkin Park. And there are hands held high. There are Linkin Park songs that don't have Chester. They can do songs with just Mike as a vocalist. That exists. They could have done more Linkin Park. They could have done a couple of EPs. Post Traumatic could have been a Linkin Park EP with just Mike singing. They didn't do that. It wasn't until he heard Emily's voice on a song that he said, this is Linkin Park. And I think that's so important. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me from this. I also think it's important to note that the way that Rob stepped away from the band. So that was just a very personal him thing, completely him. And then there's just a void that was filled. You know, like Colin came in, he was already working with Mike. There's chemistry. They get along. They're creative together. And he's an incredible drummer. So I think that the way that that came together naturally, and then the way that Emily came into it naturally, it all feels good. And I'm really excited. I've listened to the song. So it's the 10th of September today as I watch this. I've listened to the song 20 or 30 times, and I love it now. I've done some more videos rewatching that first performance, but with Ben, who I do my streams with, showing him, because he hadn't heard Emily yet. So watching with him and seeing his reactions to her for the first time. And on my second listen, the first listen, there was so much excitement, fear, shock, just everything. Listening to it again, the second time, knowing everything that I knew, having, you know, seeing all the discourse and everything, I was like, this is great. The biggest problem with that performance was the mix in the stream. I think that was a huge problem. I think that didn't work in their favor. And I'm very excited. I'm going to be doing a lot of Linkin Park stuff because I'm so excited. I'm going to go and listen to a bunch of Dead Sarah tracks. I'm going to listen to Emily singing live Dead Sarah tracks. I want to hear Mike's stuff that he's been releasing since Linkin Park came out. When this new album drops, I want to be way more across everything than I am right now. I am pretty damn across. Like, I'm a Linkin Park super fan as I sit here. By the time this album comes out, I want to know everything. I want to be fully prepared, and I want to have the most informed experience of that album that I possibly can. So I hope you enjoy all this content that's going to come out over the next 2 months until this album drops. It's my favorite band. I always try to do Linkin Park stuff. You know, over the last 4 years of doing content, I put it in here and there, but I feel like now is my opportunity to go all in, and because I just want to anyway. So even if I wasn't making videos, these are all the things I'd be watching and listening to anyway. So the fact that I have the opportunity to make content about it and bring other people along on the journey, I feel so lucky. I'm so excited, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So I'll see you on the next video. I can't wait for more Linkin Park stuff. I'll see you guys later. See ya.